owe to be a teenager these days. All these new ways to make money. You don't have to mow lawns anymore, do you?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And as someone who grew up playing video games, I can't help but feel a little bit jealous because there are kids who are going to be making more money than I was making at the Pizza Hut from playing video games. And this is like, it's easy to joke about, but the reality is this play to earn model is going to become the new normal. And what it's doing to empower people all over the world is actually really remarkable and quite extraordinary.
So Axie Infinity has grown 750 times in 1 year. This convergence between blockchain and gaming and NFTs, explain to us what this all means. There are a lot of people who don't understand what's happening here.
I get it. To put it in perspective, right, the company did 200 million in revenue in July. They've already hit that number now halfway into August. This growth is remarkable. And the reason, well, look, there is a generation of gamers who have grown up, whether they're playing on their mobile phones or on their computers, they've grown up enjoying games, enjoying the community around games, and spending lots of hard-earned money on it. But they've never gotten to own the things that they spent the money on, right? You could spend real money to get an in-game, skin in Fortnite to help you look cool or various things. But you no longer owned it. It was just property of the game. What the blockchain does is create the technology so that you actually own the digital goods that you buy or earn. And what this does, now that it is at scale and truly a global marketplace, is it empowers gamers to really own the things that they're creating, to really actually monetize the time that they're spending playing these video games. And like I said, there's no putting this genie back in the bottle. Once people are realizing that this is an alternative, and in some cases, you've got people who were forced out of work because of COVID, started playing Axie Infinity, are now making more money from this game that they don't need to go back to work. They're paying their medical bills, they're feeding their families, and it's a truly global phenomenon. And yeah, if you consider this as the new normal for gaming, what reason would any person have to go back to spending their time playing games for free or spending money for things they don't actually own?
So in the case of Axie, 95% of the money goes back to the players themselves, as I understand it. Talk to us about how you see blockchain and decentralization impacting other gaming giants. I'm thinking Epic, I'm thinking Activision Blizzard, Ubisoft, EA. Where is this going?
I gave a talk at Activision Blizzard about 4 years ago, and I was there just to talk about Reddit, but I couldn't help but plug Ethereum and the potential for it. But I do think every one of these companies, they weren't that interested back then. I think they're a lot more interested now. And I think broadly, every one of these companies needs to have a strategy for how to use this new technology, because a lot of them have the IP, they have the fan base, but very quickly you're seeing a new dynamic, right? The Axie, that community is 100% sort of player owned. That economy is 100% player owned. And so now you have someone who isn't just a fan of the game, but it's someone who benefits from that game being more successful, from telling their friends about it, from staying and being invested even more in it. This is the same sort of community-driven system we saw help Reddit be so successful for the last 15 years, except now games are able to reward people for being an early believer, for being a community builder, for spending that time. And so, look, this is a paradigm shift of a technology. I don't use that phrase lightly, but it's going to be important for all the incumbents to look at the new games that they're shipping and figure out ways to anchor it in this technology, because it's proven it's working, and the scale at which this is growing. I mean, this is real money, and it's already proving to be quite formidable.
Meantime, Reddit just raised new funds at a $10 billion valuation. This has been a long journey. It wasn't always looking that way. Talk to us about the power of community and the value of these platforms. Where do you see that going?
Emily, I think I would like to take credit for having the foresight, but I didn't. We just thought, I thought this was a good idea to trust and sort of expect the power of community to scale, sort of in the early premise of the internet. The thing that we did not anticipate, that I think you're seeing now fulfilled through crypto, is that sense of community ownership. and the sense of being able to reward someone for being there early, for participating, and give them a sense of ownership that actually helps pay the bills, right? The fact that we now have programmable money that is creating this new sort of Web3 is it's a big deal. And my expectation here going forward is that we're going to see a lot of really interesting stuff bubble up as more and more talented product developers, designers, engineers start building on blockchain tech. And I really think this intersection of community and capital speaks to what this new internet is going to be. I think we, in the first sort of Web 2.0, that movement of the last 15 years, we got the community part right. We've seen that grow. We've seen that scale. The business models, however, were often at odds, right? Because there's an advertising model or sort of privacy was at risk. This new model is taking the best of community and then actually rewarding it through a system where everyone wins. And you're seeing it in NFTs, you're seeing it in a variety of different places now, but we're still in the earliest days and there's a lot more innovation to come. I think similar to what we saw when the App Store first went online, we're gonna see an explosion of creativity and ingenuity. And it's going to be really exciting to watch because I think it's going to really finally give sort of more value attributed to the people who create it, to the users, to the gamers, to the people who are actually doing the work.
Meantime, you've got another famous community builder, Jack Dorsey, trying to build a decentralized social network. What do you think of his efforts? Do you think that's because he believes that community management can be a liability?
I think it's some very smart future proofing. And I think of it from a standpoint of we know that at the end of the day, content creators, community builders, they're driving the value of these networks. They're the reason people want to pay attention and retweet and like and all these other things. And, we're seeing them now come sort of at odds with a lot of their original platforms. And I really think that it's incumbent on the existing social media networks to either figure out ways to adapt so that their business models make more sense for those creators or have someone else drink that milkshake. And I think the reality is, unless you're willing to go to the extent that Jack is to really try to decentralize yourself as an organization, I think you're going to have a hard time. So I think he is thinking along the right lines.
At the same time, I recently spoke with the man known as the inventor of Ethereum, Vitalik about Jack Dorsey's plans, Mark Zuckerberg's plans, and he thinks that the blockchain and Ethereum is really a threat to Facebook, to Twitter. Take a listen to a clip of what Vitalik had to say.
Replacing the dollar completely is unlikely, just because there's things that the dollar provides, like price stability, for example, that Bitcoin is not going to provide. I think even in a theoretical world where the US dollar collapses, even then, I think Bitcoin is not going to be able to provide the level of stability that users and businesses expect to be able to set prices in. And in that kind of world, we would need something else. It could be decentralized stable coins, it could be something else, but we'll see. But at the same time, I think cryptocurrency can still have a very powerful and important role alongside existing currencies.
So he goes on to say that, he's skeptical, actually, of some of Jack Dorsey's plans, and that he thinks that, the blockchain could really undermine the centralized social networks that we've all come to know. What do you think?
I do think long-term, Vitalik is probably right. And I'm sure there are people watching that clip who are struggling to understand how this young man, and there's a whole lot of people behind this broader movement, but how what we're talking about here is potentially sort of reimagining the financial system. But the reality is, we're talking about ones and zeros, we're talking about the power of software, and we're talking about something like, let's say, Ethereum, a blockchain that has now proven at a really impressive scale. I don't know what the current market cap is now, but at a really impressive scale that it works. And I think, at the end of the day, this was one piece of the internet that was not sort of factored in, which is that sort of transfer of money. And, a business like Stripe, for instance, has done a really good job being that fiat on-ramp into ones and zeros. But on the other side, crypto has shown another way. And I do think that it's going to be the best bet that the incumbents have is to find ways to empower the real sort of value creators on the platform, which are the community and the content creators. And what that means is beyond just points and hearts and all the other things. It's like, it's money. It's things that you can pay your rent on. And that's where the leverage is. That was the final piece that has fit into the puzzle. And so I do think it's a genuine threat, and user experience is still the thing that's going to make all the difference in the meantime. And so the bigger question for me is, when can these crypto technologies, when these blockchain technologies get to a good enough user experience at a large enough scale that it's meaningful enough for someone to bring their audience over? But is it a question of if or when? I think it's just a question of when.